Hello friends, my name is Lalita Bairwa, Assistant Professor English, Government RD Girls College, Bharatpur. So this is the second part of the poem The Lotus. Here we can see the picture of Psyche. This is Lily, this is Rose, and this is Lotus, as you all know. Let's see the question answer of the poem. Who approached to Flora for a flower and why? The answer is The Lotus by Toru Dutt begins with the goddess of love approaching the flower goddess Flora to create a flower who would undisputedly be the queenliest of all flowers. Both the lily and the rose uses their bard of power in their fight over the queenliest flower title. Toru uses Greek and Roman mythology as support for her Hindu beliefs and to establish her stand. In line 8 of the poem, we reach the climax where all the flowers groups from click in a bitter conflict within the soul's essence. The goddess Flora is given a task of creating a flower as delicious as the rose and stately as the lily in her pride. Line 9 to 14 of the poem describe the solution to the problem of finding the queenliest flower of all. Toru has Flora create a flower that is both red as a rose and white as a lily. As a result, Flora creates a flower with the characteristic of a rose and a lily combined and create the beautiful lotus flower. The lotus is a national symbol of India and the Hindu faith. The overall theme of the poem is the pride of India's culture and Hindu religion. The idea of being the ultimate religion of the world is the main focus of the lotus. What do the rose and lily symbolize? This is the next question. The answer is in her sonnet, The Lotus. Toru is entering into a long poetical debate on the superiority of the rose versus the lily, most notably William Cowper's The Lily and the Rose, that portrays the rose as romantic and delicious because of its color in contrast to the lily, which is regal and stately in stature. In Cowper's poem, it is decided that the two flowers must regain equally as green until there exists a third to surpass them. That employs the power of the gods and goddesses along with the tradition of the bard in order to position the lotus as the queenliest flower. The sonnet, The Lotus, is interesting in the symbolic representation of flowers. The rose is projected as one that has been often used by poets as a powerful symbol of beauty, romanticism, and deliciousness. The lily is projected as a symbol of stateliness and majesty. In her symbolic projection, the lotus surpasses both as it is a combination of beauty and stateliness. It is perhaps because of this that the lotus is considered a symbol of the divine divinity, which is a combination of beauty and stateliness. As Toru Dutt describes, and Flora gave the lotus, rose red dyed and lily white, the queenliest flower that blows. The next question is, who is the queenliest of flowers? How is the queenliest flower created? The Lotus by Toru Dutt begin with the goddess of love approaching the flower goddess Flora to create a flower who would undisputedly be the queenliest of all flowers. The lily and the rose are the main contender of the challenge. They had been rivals for long for that high honor. The flower meet at goddess of love Psyche's power for the challenge. There the goddess Flora is given the task of creating a flower as delicious as the rose and stately as the lily in her pride. Flora has to create a flower that is both red as a rose and white as a lily. As a result, Flora creates a flower with the characteristic of a rose and a lily. combined and created the beautiful lotus flower. Thus, the lotus turns out to be the queenliest of all flowers. In Western tradition, rose is projected as one that has been often used by poets as a powerful symbol of beauty, romanticism, and deliciousness. The lily is projected as a symbol of stateliness and majesty. In the symbolic projection, the lotus surpasses both as it is a combination of beauty and stateliness. The rose and lily. Thus, Toru substitute her own version of beauty, inspiration, and poetic power for conventional European ones. It is perhaps because of this that the lotus is considered a symbol of the divine divinity, which is a combination of beauty and stateliness. Who created the queenliest flower and why? We all know that this is goddess Flora who created the queenliest flower, and she created the lotus to resolve the dispute between the flower rose and lily. Where do the flowers meet for the challenge? Who are the main characters of the challenge? This is the next and last question. The Lotus by Toru begins with the goddess of love, Psyche, approaching the flower goddess Flora to create a flower who would undisputedly be the queenliest of all flowers. The lily and the rose are the main contender of the challenge. They had been rivals for long for that high honor. They used their bars of power in their fight over the queenliest flower title. They also have their flaws among other flowers. Some flowers told Rose was better than Lily, and other flowers compared Lily to the beautiful goddess Juno's face. Some flowers supported Lily, whereas others supported Rose. Toru uses Greek and Roman mythology as support for her Hindu belief and to establish her stand. The flower meet at goddess of love, Psyche's power for the challenge. In Roman mythology, Psyche is Cupid's love interest. In their story, Psyche is at one point brought to a bower covered with plants and flowers. There, the goddess Flora is given the task of creating a flower as delicious as the rose and stately as the lily in her pride. The lotus is a sonnet in the Petrarchan type. Sonnet is a poem of 14 lines with two divisions, the octave and the sestet. The octave consists of 8 lines and the sestet consists of 6 lines. A sonnet deals with a single idea, the octave proposing and the sestet resolving, and Toru Dutt raises a problem in the octave and resolves in the sestet. How is the lotus is a cultural symbol of Indian society? By establishing the superiority of the lotus flower, Toru Dutt has tried to establish the superiority of Indian culture. The lotus is considered a cultural symbol in Indian society. It has been a favorite flower with Indian gods and goddesses. Both Lord Vishnu and Goddess Lakshmi have the lotus as their seat. Even in the present time, the lotus enjoys a unique respectability in Indian society. All great civil honor have been named after the lotus: Padam Shri, Padam Bhushan, and Padam Vibhushan. Rose stands for passion because of its color, a lily for purity, innocence, and simplicity. Here, lotus symbolizes Indian culture and Hindu religion. Toru Dutt has used Roman mythology, Flora, Cupid, and Juno, and lotus symbolizes fusion of Eastern and Western philosophy. This is the end of part second. Thank you.